Straight ahead on Law&Crime Daily. It's Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. How Heard's sister describes a tense incident between the couple.
He strikes me in the back. I hear Amber shout, "Don't hit my sister." There's broken glass. The place was destroyed.
And those closest to Heard describe her relationship with Depp.
Are you afraid that Mr. Depp was going to hurt Miss Heard?
Yes.
Plus, the murder of a Florida State University professor.
Charlie Adelson's family had a big problem, and that problem was Dan Markel. This defendant was the solution.
If she did not know, she is not guilty on all 3 counts. It's that simple.
Hear from both sides in the retrial of Katherine Magbanua, and later, the cross-examination of defendant Ryan Duke.
When you walked in the police department that morning, you were prepared to confess, correct?
I was prepared to take the blame for something I didn't do.
Why he says a childhood best friend is to blame for the murder of Tara Grinstead. Law&Crime Daily, covering court cases from coast to coast. Welcome, everybody, to Law&Crime Daily. I'm Brian Ross, in today for Brian Buckmeyer. Well, we've heard from Amber Heard. Now we're hearing from her sister, who testified about Johnny Depp and Heard's marriage. Law&Crime's Anjanette Levy is here with testimony of Whitney Henriquez. Anjanette?
Well, Brian, Whitney Henriquez was the only witness to testify in person today. She testified that Johnny Depp was intelligent, kind, and charming when he wasn't abusing drugs. But Henriquez told the jury that when Depp was using drugs or using alcohol, his behavior changed. Henriquez said that she had used cocaine with Depp several times, and she said she actually liked him quite a lot. He called her sis, and she referred to him as brother. She also recalled an incident on a plane ride to London where she said that Johnny Depp threw a knife at his assistant. Then she discussed that March 2015 incident at the penthouse where Amber Heard said she had punched Johnny Depp to protect Whitney.
He comes up behind me, strikes me in the back, kind of just somewhere over here. He strikes me in the back. I hear Amber shout, "Don't hit my sister." She smacks him, lands one, and then he grabs, at that point, that's when Travis runs up the stairs after Amber landed one. But by that time, Johnny had already grabbed Amber by the hair with one hand and was whacking her repeatedly in the face with the other as I was standing there. Travis pulls them apart. I get Amber into mine. I close the doors behind me and lock them. I then hear Johnny's voice shouting.
Never mind, withdraw. Okay, sorry.
I hear Johnny's voice shouting, I hate you. I hate you both. You whores. And I hear crashing. I hear crashing and banging and smashing, and he starts screaming like an animal. And I then just moved Amber into the next room, and I just kept her there all night. The next day, I go, and I see her closet has been completely destroyed.
And we actually saw a photo of Amber Heard's closet room that she said that Johnny Depp destroyed on that night. He had knocked, apparently, clothing racks over. You may recall that Travis McGivern, that bodyguard of Johnny Depp's who was there, testified that Depp rearranged her closet. We saw the pictures today. And Amber Heard had testified, you'll recall, that that fight started that time in March of 2015. She claims that she found text messages on Johnny Depp's iPad when he was sleeping, and they were between him and a woman with whom he had been intimate in the past. And so that is why the argument started. Brian?
Anjanette, do you think Whitney Henriquez's testimony accomplished what Amber Heard's lawyers hoped it would? Did it help or hurt her sister?
You know, it's all going to be up to the jury, but she backed up her sister's story about the staircase incident. Obviously, you know, Johnny Depp contends he's never hit a woman, didn't hit Whitney Heard or Amber Heard. Whitney Henriquez is contradicting that and saying that he did hit her in the back and that he hit and that he had hit Amber Heard. So it doesn't sound like she had ever witnessed that, the physical abuse, but she's recalling and recounting this evening that sounded pretty volatile. That's when the bodyguard, Travis McGivern, said he wanted to get Johnny Depp out of there because it was just getting to be too heated.
Angela, let me ask you something that came up during cross-examination. Depp's lawyer asked Henriquez about a woman named Jennifer Howell and her relationship with her. How is that relevant?
You know, it's very interesting that that was brought up on cross-examination, Brian, and they went up to the judge to have a sidebar about this issue. And when the lawyer came back, she asked her about Jennifer Howe and the fact that she had referred to Jennifer Howe as her chosen sister. She had actually lived with Jennifer Howe for a time as well and worked for her. Jennifer Howe filed a document with the court, and in that document, we didn't hear about the document or her claims, but in that document, she said that she disputes Whitney Heard's account. She says that Whitney Heard loved Johnny Depp and that she said that Amber Heard was the abuser in the relationship and she didn't understand why Johnny Depp was staying. And she said that when she found out about the Australia incident and Johnny Depp's finger being cut off, this Jennifer Howe quotes Amber Heard's sister as saying, now she's done it using an expletive. She cut his finger off.
The twists and turns aren't ending to stay there. Still ahead on Law and Crime Daily, our comprehensive coverage of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial continues. Still ahead, hear from those who lived in Depp's penthouse alongside Amber Heard. What acts of violence they say occurred in front of them. Welcome back. We continue our coverage now in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation trial. On Wednesday, jurors watched the video deposition of Raquel Pennington, Heard's best friend who lived with her in the Eastern Columbia building. Pennington testified she took photos of Heard that depicted injuries to her face.
I was scared for Amber. I was sad for her, and I was also sad for Johnny. Because he is my friend, too. And I really wanted them to be able to get it together.
Why were you scared for Amber?
It could be very unpredictable. It's a photo of Amber's face with two black eyes and a swollen bottom lip.
Later, jurors heard the deposition testimony of Joshua Drew, Pennington's ex-husband and a friend of Heard's. He says Heard was catatonic when police arrived after a fight with Depp.
I was outside the door with the male officer, and specifically my communication with him was asking what, if anything, could be done, because we were obviously upset. And his comment to me specifically was, there's damage in these apartments. Her face is red. If she wants to file a report, we have enough here to go pick him up. Amber was near catatonic. After all this, we had gotten her into PH1 so we could deadbolt the door and keep her safe until he left.
We're joined today by criminal defense attorney Michael Bachner, co-host Terry Austin, and correspondent Anjanette Levy. Michael, let me start with you. Joshua Drew told attorneys he never saw Depp physically hit Heard, but saw the fallout of intense arguments multiple times. Does that add up to he heard and saw Amber Heard get hurt?
Oftentimes, lawyers only have what we call circumstantial evidence to corroborate the testimony of other people. And some of this testimony can be very helpful. For a person who says, look, I didn't see the event, but this is the circumstances that I did witness. I saw the catatonic state of Amber. I saw and heard noises. I heard the screaming. This is all also corroborative of the testimony of the witnesses and can be very helpful for a jury is trying to determine whether an event occurred. So it's not unusual to have a witness like this testify about the circumstances, even though he may not have seen the actual alleged assault.
Terry Austin, let me ask you, Raquel Pennington was Amber's best friend at the time. Now they don't speak to each other. What does that mean, do you think, for the jurors?
You know, I think it's going to be a little confusing for the jury. Generally speaking, when you have someone who's very close to this witness, you're going to think that they are biased in favor of the party. But here she's saying she hasn't spoken to Amber in 6 months. She said they are not enemies. She said they grew apart, but, you know, she didn't classify them as friends either. And so I think what the jury is going to do is listen to what she has to say. Maybe she's neutral. I will say, though, Brian, at the end of the day, much of her testimony had to do with injuries that she said she thought Depp had inflicted upon Amber. So she overall was in favor of Amber.
And Jeanette, you're in the courtroom. Video depositions, as you know, are often less exciting than seeing an actual witness in the courtroom. How are jurors reacting now to these many videos being shown?
And it's really interesting, Brian, because Wednesday, all we saw were video depositions, with the exception of Whitney Enriquez. They're watching, they're taking notes, you know, they have breaks throughout the day, but they're just paying attention, and I see poker faces, really. I don't see much expression. I did see one woman juror, or a female, smile today, and they smiled when they were greeted by the judge, but they're not really showing a lot of reaction to the video depositions.
All right, Anjanette, Michael, and Terry, thank you very much. Coming up on Law and Crime Daily, jurors hear opening statements in the case of Katherine Magbanua, a woman allegedly involved in a Florida murder-for-hire plot. Plus, jurors hear from co-defendants in the Tara Grinstead trial in Georgia, but one of them doesn't tell his side of the story. And welcome back. Prosecutors argue key pieces of evidence point to Katherine Magbanua as opening statements are presented in her retrial, where she is accused of being the go-between in the murder-for-hire plot of a Florida State University professor. Dan Markel was shot and killed in 2014. At the time, he and his wife, Wendy Adelson, were in a custody battle. Prosecutors say Wendy's brother, Charles Adelson, recruited his then-girlfriend, Katherine Magbanua, to help murder Markel. Magbanua contacted the father of her children, Sigfredo Garcia, who later enlisted a second person, Luis Rivera. Officials say Garcia and Rivera then shot and killed Markel. In 2019, Garcia and Magbanua were tried as co-defendants. Garcia was convicted and given life in prison without parole, but the jury was unable to reach a verdict for Magbanua. Last month, Charlie Adelson was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and solicitation of murder. Magbanua faces the same 3 charges now. Prosecutors presented their case before the jury for the first time on Wednesday.
The reason we're here this morning is because the defendant in this case, Katherine Magbanua, set up the murder of a man named Dan Markel. And the evidence in this case will prove to you that the defendant was the link, or the middleman. The defendant had a rich boyfriend named Charlie Adelson. And Charlie Adelson's family had a big problem. And that problem was Dan Markel. This defendant was the solution because she had connections to the type of people who were willing and capable of pointing a gun at a stranger, someone they'd never met, and pulling the trigger.
Magbanua's defense attorney told jurors their decision at the end of the trial should be easy after the evidence is presented.
The state and I can actually agree on 2 very important points about this case. Number 1, Charles Adelson had Dan Markel killed. We absolutely agree with that. Number 2, Luis Rivera and Sigfredo Garcia carried out the hit for Charlie Adelson. What we do not agree on is whether or not Katherine Magbanua knew about a plan to have Dan Markel killed. The only question that you are all going to have to answer at the end of all of this evidence is, did Katherine know? That's it. It's that simple. If she did not know, she is not guilty on all 3 counts.
So Michael Bachner, Magbanua's co-defendant, was found guilty, and her ex-boyfriend now also faces charges in connection to Markel's murder. It doesn't bode well for her, does it?
Well, the fact of their convictions is not admissible evidence at her trial. unless these individuals end up being witnesses, and then they can be cross-examined about it. But the jury is going to be asked to determine the culpability of this defendant alone. The lawyer is going to do her job, I'm assuming, and advise the jury that their focus is only on her and only on her evidence. And we do know there was a hung jury the first time, so at least some jurors had issues with the proof. I guess we're going to have to wait. We're going to wait and see. The fact that 2 people were convicted does not mean that Ms. Magbanua is going to suffer the same result. But we'll have to wait and see.
Terry, as Michael says, the jury could not reach a unanimous decision last time. So with a retrial, does the prosecution stand a better chance of getting a conviction?
I definitely think the prosecution has a better chance. I mean, you can argue that the defense does as well, but I think that the prosecution now knows the strengths and weaknesses of their case, and they're going to try to strengthen that connection that Magbanua has to the crime. They're going to focus on hard evidence like phone records. And the other thing working to their advantage is now that Charlie Adelson has been arrested, he could very well take a plea deal and point the finger at Magbanua. And I think that's exactly what he will do. And I think if they do that, then they're going to be able to tie Magbanua to all of the other individuals. Had it not been for her, this would not have occurred.
All right, Terry and Michael, thanks much. When we come back, co-defendants take the stand in a Georgia courtroom. Ryan Duke tells his side of the story, pointing the finger at Bo Dukes on how former beauty queen Tara Grinstead was murdered. Welcome back. Co-defendants Ryan Duke and Bo Dukes take the stand in a Georgia courtroom as Dukes fakes a murder charge for the death of Georgia teacher and beauty queen Tara Grinstead, nearly 17 years after her disappearance. Ryan Duke and Bo Dukes were friends and classmates at the time of Grinstead's disappearance. The former beauty queen went missing from her Georgia home in October of 2005. For years, investigators had very few leads, and the case seemingly went cold. Then, in 2017, after a podcast renewed interest in the case, Duke and Dukes were arrested. Prosecutors say Ryan Duke told police he broke into Grinstead's home and killed her. They argue Bo Dukes helped Duke burn her body. While on the stand Tuesday, Ryan Duke told a different story, that Bo killed Grinstead and that he was the one who helped cover it up. On cross-examination, Duke was questioned about his interview with police where he confessed to Grinstead's death.
You told Agent Shadell that you hit her, correct?
Yes, ma'am, I told him that.
And you're now saying that was a lie?
Yes, ma'am.
And you've already told this jury that you're claiming you don't know how she died, correct?
I don't.
When you walked in the police department that morning, you were prepared to confess, correct?
I was prepared to take the blame for something I didn't do.
But you were there because you've already admitted you helped put her lifeless body on top of that fire pit.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And you don't want to admit having seen the match struck, but you know that she was set on fire.
Yes, ma'am.
And you knew that on October 23rd of 2005.
Yes, ma'am.
And you knew that on October 24th of 2005.
Yes, ma'am.
And you knew that on October 25th of 2005.
And every day after.
That's right, every day after. And you never told a soul.
Shortly after the testimony of Ryan Duke ended, his defense called Bo Dukes to the stand.
On the advice of counsel, I'll be invoking my Fifth Amendment right not to provide testimony.
How'd you get here today?
On the advice of counsel, I'll be invoking my Fifth Amendment right not to provide testimony today.
Mr. Duke, do you intend to invoke your Fifth Amendment right to every question?
I do, Your Honor.
Any reason to continue this?
No, Judge.
You be excused.
The Michael Bachner, Ryan Duke's taped confession seemed to be fairly convincing. Do you think his testimony on the stand convinced the jury that it was a false confession?
Well, he seems very well prepared. He's trying to keep his demeanor and his calm. But at the end of the day, it's a very hard pull to make for a jury that you decided to go into a police station and admit that you committed a capital offense and oops, I was just kidding. or I was nervous, or I was scared and incriminated myself in that type of a fashion because I was either concerned about the Duke family, Beau's family, or whatever it might be. That's a very hard argument to make. People, I think a jury's going to have a very hard time acknowledging the fact or accepting the fact that he just voluntarily incriminated himself in a capital offense. It's a very hard, but it's his only out. He has to say he lied about it because what's his option?
That's what he's got, right. So, Terry, Beau Dukes got on the witness stand, but then he invoked his Fifth Amendment right not to testify against himself. How do you think that affects the case against Ryan Duke?
Listen, I think Beau Duke's refusal to speak is definitely going to help Ryan Duke. There's no question about it. You have a constitutional right against self-incrimination, and the judge will allow that, even though he got up on the stand and said he didn't want to talk. It seems like a waste of time. But I think that he is doing it strategically because he doesn't want to get more time, and a jury is definitely going to use that against him and let it look favorably upon Ryan Duke. So I think at the end of the day, it helps Ryan.
All right, Terry, Austin, Michael Bachner, thank you so much. And thank you for joining us here on Law and Crime Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.